Hello, and welcome to the Quick Start Guide for RealList. Now, by now, I'm sure you've already downloaded the RealList app from the App Store, and go ahead and launch RealList. And after you see the splash screen, if you look at the top of the screen, you're going to notice that there is your URL, which is simply google-stats.com. So that's going to be the website that we're going to be constantly using when we perform RealList. And then underneath it, it says current pin. The RealList servers every 24 hours give you a unique pin. And so in this case, it's 99. So all we have to do right now is just remember the number 99. And it also tells you that this pin is going to expire in 23 hours and 59 minutes. So basically, you got 24 hours to use your unique pin, because after those 24 hours, it will give you a brand new pin. So then below that, in this particular example, we're going to be forcing a country. So next to the countries category, you'll see that it says Mexico 680. So grab a small piece of paper, and on it, you're going to write the word Mexico, and below it, you're going to write 680K. Fold up that little piece of paper, and just so that nobody can read the word Mexico, and put it in your pocket, and now you're ready to perform RealList. Remember, the number 99 is currently your pin. As long as you can remember that number, you're ready to perform. So now you can actually put your phone away, because you can now either perform RealList on your own phone, or you can just do it on any borrowed phone. So now launch any browser. So in this case, this is Safari on an iPhone. And just because I want to teach you the basic input method for RealList, on the address bar, you're going to type in google-stats.com, but put a /P, P for practice, at the end of the URL. So now you'll notice that the Google Stats page is going to display your secret input method, which is this grid of numbers, which is analogous to the numpad that you find on a phone. Also, you'll see that there is an unlock button that's in the lower left and the lower right-hand corner. By doing a diagonal swipe from the lower right or lower left-hand corners, you're going to be unlocking the secret input method, which is nothing more than just simply swiping up, starting from any one of these numbered grids. All right, so now that you've seen what that invisible grid looks like, also notice how the alternating gray bars that are in the background of the Google Stats page show you exactly where the rows are where you'll find these numbers. Now that we've seen what these numbers are, let's go ahead and get rid of this page, and we're ready to perform. So now you're going to go to google-stats.com /your number. Your pin today is 99. We'll put that in and hit enter. Later on in this video, you're going to learn how to perform even if you didn't have to touch your spectator's phone. There are two other methods where google-stats.com is just simply the web page that your spectators visit, and you never have to even use the number 99, because we're going to learn how to do that completely secretly. So now ask your spectator to simply look at the page, and all of the statistics that are shown currently on google-stats.com are all real. These are truly all the trending topics that are happening in Google. As we continue to come down the page, you're going to notice that there is the countries category. So ask your spectator to select countries. And now this is when you give your spectator that small piece of paper that had Mexico written on it. Now ask your spectator to name any number between 1 and 100. Now, what I want you to notice is right here next to the words terms indexed, there's a little period. We're going to see why that period's important, but watch what happens when we now do that diagonal swipe starting from the lower right-hand corner. The moment that I did that diagonal swipe, now I have unlocked the secret input method, and next to the word indexed, the period has disappeared. That means now we're ready for input, and you ask your spectator to name any number between 1 and 100. Let's say the spectator says 25. So here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That means this is the position for number 2. We do a swipe up on 2. And now, since this is position number 5, we do a swipe up on 5. And now we just input the number 25. Even though, to our spectators, it looks like we've just simply scrolled down the page. Now, this is a very motivated action, and it flies by all the spectators. And the way you're going to check yourself is if you look here in the lower right-hand corner, you'll notice that the last 4 digits are 2950. The numbers that are important to you are the digits that are in the thousands place and in the tens place. And I can see that 2 is in the thousands place and 5 is in the tens place. That means that I have correctly input the number 25. So now, as your spectators scroll down the page until they get to item number 25, you've guessed it, 25 says Mexico, and below it, it says 680K. Now remember, these are force items that you can change that we're going to learn about later on in this instruction video. This is when you're going to call attention to that little piece of paper that you had given to your spectators. You asked them, if you could please, remember, you could have chosen any one of these countries. If you had chosen 24, you would have come to Russia. Or if you had chosen 26, it would have been Thailand, or 27 would have been India. There are 100 different countries that are on this list that you could have chosen from, but you chose Mexico. Open up that paper. And when they open it up, sure enough, they read out loud to everyone, Mexico and 680K. And that is the basic performance of RealList. There's a website that's called Google Stats, where Google shows you the top trending things, right? So they have the top 100 search things that are on the internet, and I've already written down a prediction here for you. What I want you to do is write down any number between 1 and 100 right here. Go ahead, write down any number between 1 and 100.
Okay.
Nice and big. Perfect. So as we scroll down the page, okay, I want you to scroll down the page actually until you get to your number. So keep scrolling down until you get to your number. Now, as you're scrolling down, you see there's all these different video games that are there right now, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so your number was, let's take a look.
65.
65, right? And what is under number 65?
Tetris.
And Tetris has been searched for how many times?
680,000 searches.
680,000 searches. Now, by the way, Asayan, if you notice here that if you had gone maybe, if you'd chosen number 66, it would have been The Sims or Fallout. These are all your favorite games. 60 would have been Grand Theft Auto, or 59 would have been Mass Effect. But it's not. The one that you selected is 65, which is Tetris, right? So remember that piece of paper that I had in front of you?
Yeah.
I wrote something down in the folded paper before we started. Open up the paper.
Tetris 680,000 searches.
Yes!
Oh my god. It's the same.
It's the same.
It's the same.
Now, that happens just 1 out of 100 times. So I got lucky that time. Thank you. You're so awesome. So here's a breakdown of that performance. And obviously, the main point about RealList is you can either perform with a borrowed phone or the magician's phone. And in this performance, I've actually started the performance by asking the spectator to go to googlestats.com, and she has already selected the video games category. And I have also done the little diagonal secret swipe that starts the method. So now you notice I'm using a piece of paper for the prediction where the spectator is going to write a number between 1 and 100. And writing is nice because it keeps it silent. Now here's where the method happens. Here's the first swipe. Here's the second swipe. I just input the number 65, even though the spectator believes I've done nothing more than just scroll down the page. And you notice that right after I did the 2 swipes to scroll down the screen, I immediately handed the phone over to the spectator, and as I ask her to continue scrolling down the page. And now she gets down to item number 65. So she sees that the force item is Tetris, and she also sees that the force number is 680,000. Right? So now I'm essentially commenting that if she had chosen a different number, of course, she would have gotten different results, either 59, 60, or 70, or whatever the numbers are, because there's 100 different video games that are trending right now in Google. So now it's time for the punchline. You bring the attention back to the prediction that's been in front of her the whole time, and as she opens it, Ta-da! There is Tetris. There is 680,000. And this is where you get the reaction. It's very organic, very straightforward. And to her, there is no explanation. Hello, and welcome to the video instructions for RealList. RealList is the latest magic utility from Rostami Magic that allows you to perform incredible predictions with nothing more than a borrowed phone. That's right, you don't need anything to perform RealList. As a matter of fact, there are two different methods that we're going to discuss, one of which is performing with absolutely nothing, just with any one borrowed phone. And we're also going to discuss methods of performing RealList where you never touch your spectator's phone, but your phone actually is being used covertly. So by now, you probably have downloaded RealList either from the iOS or the Android Play Store. So go ahead and launch RealList. And you're going to notice the splash screen that comes up. And the first thing that's going to happen is that RealList is going to give you a pin. So now you can see that my current pin right now is the number 16. There is actually no logins. There's no password for RealList. And when the RealList servers give you a pin, like in this case 16, each pin lasts for 24 hours. In fact, it tells you right below it that it's going to expire in 23 hours and 59 minutes. So as long as once a day or once every 24 hours, you simply launch the RealList app and check up to see what your current pin is, you are always ready to perform. So the first effect that we're going to perform is essentially like a quick start guide, so you can very quickly jump right into RealList, and we're going to perform a actor's force. You'll notice actually that the first category here amongst one of the 12 categories that RealList gives you says actors. Right next to it, it says that the force item is Tom Hanks, and below it, it shows us that 357K is the number that's going to be forced as well. So within RealList, not only can you force the item that you want to force on your spectators, but the number can be forced also. And of course, you can have any item and any number that can be forced. So now we can completely, after we know that our current pin is 16, we can basically put our phone away completely. So here goes the phone back in our pocket. You can totally put it away. And here is now a borrowed spectator's phone. All right. In fact, you can see down at the bottom over here, it says that this is the spectator's phone, and we're just ask your spectator to launch any browser. So in this case, since this is an iPhone, it's going to be Safari, and you're also going to ask the spectator to go to googlestats.com. So the spectator will just simply type in Google stats.com. And when they do, the Google Stats website appears. Now, there are a couple of things that are very important about the Google Stats website. First of all, Google Stats, even though it looks very much like a traditional search engine feature, it is obviously a website that's under the control of Rostami Magic. So since we now want googlestats.com to access our account, our personal account, here's the way that you can pair the website to your account. First thing you're going to do is you're going to start with a diagonal swipe here from the lower right-hand corner. So here's my little diagonal swipe. Right after you do that diagonal swipe, you'll notice that next to the sentence here that says results updated every minute, there used to be a period here, but that period has disappeared. In a moment, we're going to see that period appear again. But now, since we want RealList to see our account, our personal account, all we have to do now is the secret input method. And the secret input method is how you scroll up on the page is how you enter numbers into the RealList website. Since our number is 16, we now want to be able to enter the number 16 into the RealList website. So right after you've done that diagonal swipe, here's what happens next. You always want to enter your personal PIN number using 3 swipes or 3 digits. Even though the number 16 is actually 2 digits, you just want to simply put a 0 in front of it. So right now the 0 is here in the middle of the screen. In a moment we're going to bring up like an overlay so you can see exactly where that is. So I'm going to swipe up a little bit. That does the 0. Here is a 1, which is in the upper left-hand corner. I'm going to do a 1 over here. Now, you'll notice that as I did that 1, here in the lower right-hand corner, the number that's right before terms index is showing actually the number 1, which is what I did just swipe. And then finally, since it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, the 6 is right over here. We're going to swipe up on the number 6, and now it shows that the number 16 has been updated here at the bottom of the screen, which is right before terms indexed. And in the case of the first 2 digits that are in the millions place, that identifies that this is your PIN. So if you want to know you are currently actually using your PIN or your account with RealList, all you have to do is just check that first 2 digits that are there in that number, and if that number corresponds with your PIN, you know that you're using your account. Now also, you're going to notice that where it says results updated every minute, there's a period that just appeared next to the word minute. Now that means that our input method now has been locked, which means regardless of how now I scroll up and down the screen, okay, it's no longer going to register the scrolls as an input method because it's been locked. And as you noticed before, that diagonal swipe from either the right hand or the left hand corner is what activates the unlock gesture that allows you to do the input. So now we're going to go ahead and scroll down until we get to the actors category, which is this one right here. So we click on actors, and you'll notice that the Google Stats website now is going to be essentially showing us actors that are currently trending. So what's important to notice about this particular, page is that it starts out with, an interest by region. It's got some, interest over time. And then, of course, there is a preamble, which is text that's talking about, what does the actors category even mean? In this case, this text was taken from a Wikipedia article, but you're welcome to customize this text to be anything you want. So now this is where you start off by giving your spectator a prediction. So on that prediction, just grab a piece of paper, or you can do a Google search on somebody else's phone. I usually prefer using like a piece of paper to do it. And all you're going to write down on that piece of paper is going to be Tom Hanks. And then underneath it, you're going to write down the number 357K. You fold it up and you give it to them. You say, listen, this is my prediction. And even before I ask you anything, I want you to hang on to that. So now they know that they're hanging on to the prediction. So now you ask them to give you any number between 1 and 100. And as they're thinking about the number, you're going to start off exactly the same way that we did on the first screen by doing a little diagonal gesture from the lower right-hand corner. Now this time, what you're going to notice is next to the words terms indexed, the little period that used to be there has now disappeared. Now don't worry, we're going to do this one more time so you can see it step by step how it exactly flows along. And now your spectator says, my number is, let's say 36. Okay, so now watch how actually sneaky this is. Here we go. Here's the number 3. Okay, now if you look over here, you'll notice that in the last 3 digits, a little 3 just appeared in between the 5 and the 2. The 5 and the 2 that's on the surroundings over here actually is not going to be used, okay, but the 3 is definitely going to be used. And then we're going to do the second digit, which is the number 6. So here is the 6th spot here. I scroll up from that direction. And now I could see that the 3 has come into the thousands place and the 6 has come into the tens place. So in RealList hides the number that your spectator has mentioned always by, first of all, giving you feedback right here in the thousands place and the tens place. So just by looking down to the lower right-hand corner of the screen, you have a feedback that the number that you inputted is correct. Also, if you look next to the words terms index, you'll notice there's a period that just appeared. Once again, that period now means that the input method has been locked, because once you do those 2 swipes, It's ready to rock. It's locked. No matter how you scroll up and down a page, it's not going to affect RealList at all. So now, the spectator, you actually give the phone to the spectator after you do those first 2 swipes, and you ask your spectator to scroll down to item number 36. And guess what? Once they arrive to item number 36, sure enough, it says Tom Hanks, and it's $357K. Now, at this point, you're not going to really ruin the surprise for them. You say, you know what? You could have chosen any number. As a matter of fact, if you had chosen, 39, you would have gotten Peter Sellers. Or if you had chosen, 42, you would have gotten Henry Fonda. Because these are like the 100 top, actors that are in the world. But it just so happens that this time around, you selected Tom Hanks. Do you remember that piece of paper I gave you even before you said anything? Why don't you open it up? And you know it. When you open up the paper, it says Tom Hanks, and below it, it says $357K. So not only had you properly predicted that they would choose Tom Hanks, you had predicted the number as well. So that is the most basic performance of RealList. And we're going to do that just one more time. But the only thing that we're going to change about this performance is I'm going to introduce you now to the practice mode, which is on the Google Stats website. So let's get rid of this page altogether. And in the address of any phone, you're going to type in that googlestats.com. But the only difference is you're going to put a P at the end of it. The P is, of course, for practice. And now watch what happens. Oh, yeah. So now you notice that there's a little numbers overlay that's now showing us exactly where the input is for the screen. So when you first start out, you might want to use this numbers overlay to kind of like help you figure out where this is. And also something else that's important for you to remember about this number pad is the number pad is very much analogous to the number pad that you find on a telephone. So if you just bring out your phone and you look at the numbers, of course, they start from the upper left-hand corner, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and the 0 is in the middle of the bottom. Also, you notice that the corners, the lower left and the lower right-hand corners, are reserved for that unlock gesture, which we're going to talk about in just a moment. Now, something else that's important to notice about the background of the RealList website is the background of the RealList website has these alternating light gray and dark gray bars. And those are there so that you know exactly where the rows are for where your numbers are going to appear. Okay, so let's get started. Let's do what we did before just one more time, but this time with the numbers overlay. So first, I want you to notice that right next to where it says results updated every minute, the period is appearing there. Okay, that means that it's locked. So no matter how somebody scrolls up and down a page, nothing's going to happen. And since we know that by doing a diagonal swipe from the lower right-hand corner, that now unlocks that input method, and that's why the period has now disappeared. So we're going to input our PIN. So our PIN is the number 16. So we always do 3 digits. So here is the 0, here is the 1, and here is the 6. All right. So right after you do these 3 swipes, and you must do 3 swipes, you notice that now next to the word minute, the period has appeared. That means that now the input method has been locked, so no other swiping on the screen is going to cause any input to take place. And again, since we are going to be doing the actors preset or the actors category, you ask the spectator to just click on actors or select actors, or you can do this for them. And now, just like the previous time, we want to force Tom Hanks and $357K to our spectator. So I want to once again bring your attention to the little period that's appearing in the lower right-hand corner of the screen, next to the word indexed. So that's now showing us that the input method is locked, meaning that regardless of how a spectator currently on this page scrolls up and down a page, they're not going to affect the RealList secret and nothing will be input. So the only way of unlocking the secret input method is with a diagonal swipe, which is going to either happen from the lower right-hand corner or from the lower left-hand corner. By the way, as a quick tip, please make sure that you don't swipe too close to the edges of the screen, like over here or over here. Because oftentimes that can cause a website to either navigate back a page or forward a page. As you can see, that button is big enough so that you're welcome to come a little bit further in from the edges and swipe a little bit further in diagonally once again. It's really important that you do that at a 45-degree angle. And this to your spectators seems nothing more than just you simply swiping up on a screen. Now remember, the little period is there. That means that it's currently locked. But the moment we do that diagonal swipe, notice that the period just disappeared, which means now it's ready for input. This is where you ask your spectator to name any number between 1 and 100. And let's say the spectator this time says, I don't know, 29. So now watch this. Here is first the 2 as I scroll up. Now, as I scroll up to number 9, what I'm now doing is, the moment that I scroll up, with my hand, I actually start moving the phone back towards the spectator that I've borrowed the phone from. And I said, just please continue swiping down the page until you get to item number 29. Now, this is important because this greater action of scrolling down the page as you hand the phone back to the spectator makes them completely forget that you had any interactions with the page, because your actions are very motivated, because obviously you do have to scroll down the page to get to their desired number. So now the spectator is going to simply scroll down the page, but I want you to notice that because we did those 2 swipes of the 2 and the 9, the little period next to the word indexed has appeared once again, and that means that now it is locked and the spectator can do whatever they want with the page, because guess what happens when you come down to item number 29? You already know it. There's 29 right there. It's Tom Hanks and it's 357K searches. So that is the most basic way that you perform RealList. If you're wondering what to do if your spectator names either a single digit number or the number 100, first let's teach you what happens with a single digit number. By the way, it doesn't matter if you do these swipes either, scrolling down a page or scrolling up a page, because these swiping gestures that you do at these invisible grids works bidirectionally. So we're going to unlock, and let's say, for example, the spectator says that their number is 9, okay, which is a single-digit number. So here's the diagonal swipe, which gets rid of our little period in the lower right-hand corner. We need to input 2 digits, so it's going to be the 0, and here is the 9, and it's done. And I can see here from the feedback that here's the 0, here's the 9. I now know that I have correctly inputted the number 9, and sure enough, if I come down to item number 9, now it says Tom Hanks. All right, let's do that one more time, but this time we're going to do it for the number 100, which is a 3-digit number. And 100 is the easiest one to do because it's nothing more than just 2 zeros. So do a little diagonal gesture once again that unlocks it. Here is the first 0. And here's the second 0. I can see the 2 zeros that have appeared over here. I can also see the little period that's appeared. That means it has locked the input method. And now as we scroll all the way down to item number 100, you already know what you're going to see there. There it is once again. Here is Tom Hanks. Now, here's a couple of important things to remember about this wonderful, really creative, clever little input method. Whatever you input on one page is persistent across all of the pages for RealList. So now let's say you now want to move to a different category for your spectator. So as we move now the spectator's phone out of the way for just a second, we're going to bring back the magician's phone. And as we look across some other categories, like let's say, for example, the actress category, you'll notice that under actress, the force item says Julia Roberts, and it also says that 579 is the search, in this case, the force number that's going to be for that category. All right. So it's easy for you to memorize what these force items are. Of course, you can always write them down on a piece of paper even before you start. So even if you didn't want to necessarily memorize Tom Hanks or Julia Roberts or any of these other categories, they could just be simply written down on a piece of paper. So you don't even have to memorize these items before your performance. But I highly recommend that you do memorize them, just because it makes it seem that much more impromptu, that you are just, out and about. You grab any pen, a small piece of paper, like from a receipt or a napkin, and you quickly jot something down. And at that moment, you've made this incredible prediction. All right, so now we know that for actress, it says Julia Roberts. Watch how we're going to use this information now to our advantage. All right, here we are back at the RealList page. So the first thing I'm going to do, since you guys are already familiar with that overlay under our practice mode, we're going to get rid of this completely. We'll go back to the Google Stats page as if we're starting from scratch. There we are. So first, we're going to enter our PIN code, which is on the first page. So here is the little diagonal swipe for the unlock. Here's the 0, here's the 1, and here is the 6. And there it is. I can see the 16 down at the bottom. So now I'm going to start out actually with the actors category. All right. So now on a piece of paper, you now are going to write actually two things. You're going to write down Tom Hanks, and below it, you're going to write down Julia Roberts. Okay, so now this is how cool it is in being able to use RealList for multiple predictions. It doesn't have to be 2. It can be as many as you want. It's really awesome. So like always, you now do a little diagonal swipe from the lower right-hand corner, which starts, unlocks the page for you. You ask the spectator to name any number between 1 and 100. So let's say they say their number is 33. Okay, perfect. So watch what's going to happen now. Here is the 3. Here's the other 3. As I look here to the lower right-hand corner, I have feedback that, yes, the number is 33 because I can see the 3 in the first spot there, another 3 right there. And I already know that the period is appearing right here. That means it's locked. So we're going to scroll down to item number 33, and you already know that when we get there, we're going to see Tom Hanks. Okay, so at this point, you ask the spectator if they know who this celebrity is. And they're like, yeah, I know Tom Hanks, right? And you don't really say too many things about it. Now remember, before you've started, you've already given them a piece of paper that has both the words Tom Hanks and Julia Roberts written on it. The phone is currently in the hand of the spectator. He said, well, your number was 33. Google, these search engines are constantly updating these search websites, so it's kind of like a random thing. We don't know, randomly what's going to come up in a different category. As a matter of fact, down the bottom, it says that these results are updated every minute. So as we scroll all the way down to the bottom, you ask the spectator to scroll down to the bottom, and this time for them to select the actress category. So now the actress category comes up, and you ask them to just scroll down to item number 33 under actress. And now as they continue to scroll down, here's where things get really, really interesting. Are you ready for this? Item number 33 is, oh yeah, Julia Roberts. So what that means is, even though you've only swiped your force number once, that force number is persistent now across all of the categories that are in RealList. And you did that while you were even on the page, right in front of your spectators, and they never saw anything because it was a motivated action. This is my prediction. It's right here before we start. All right. It's out in the open, so you know I can't change my mind, right? What we're going to do is something that's based on Google Stats. So on your phone, my friend, just go to Safari. There we go. Awesome. Okay, let me show you guys what this is all about. All of the recently trending things are all here. Okay? And down at the bottom of the list, we're interested in, first of all, the actress category. All the famous actresses are here. Actually, all of them that have been trending, actually. I want you to give me any number between 1 and 100. Any number you want. Go ahead.
78.
78. Perfect. As we scroll down the list, okay, I want you to scroll down, actually, until you get to item number 78. Who do you see next to item number 78?
Julia Roberts.
Okay, Julia Roberts. Okay, cool. Kind of random. That's all right. Okay. Now, of course, if you picked a different number, it would have been different people, right? Now, we're going to do the same for actors. You can either stay with the number 78, or you can choose to change your mind. What would you like to do next? Stick with 78. Okay, continue going down the list. Okay, choose actors, which is right there under the Tom Cruise icon, right? It's going to come up. You're going to scroll down to 78. It's a lot of different actors that are there. I'm kind of curious to see who is actually on item number 78.
Okay.
Who's there?
Tom Hanks.
Tom Hanks. Okay, that's interesting. Now remember, that prediction's been sitting there the whole time.
Yeah, I've been watching it.
Julia Roberts and Tom Hanks. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Dun, 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 dun. Julia Roberts, Tom Hanks.
So I guess that covers any 100 possibilities.
It does. Okay, there's a more recent photograph right there.
That's pretty good.
Yes, I had a 1 out of 10,000 chance of getting that one.
Yeah, only one out of 10,000.
All right. So now that we've learned about these basic ways of performing RealList, I now want to show you the 3 methods of actually pairing with your spectator's phone. The first method, which is the one that we've already learned, so we're going to start out by completely getting rid of our page. The first method that you've already learned is how, by the spectator just going to googlestats.com and by you scrolling the number 16, you've input your unique PIN into the RealList website. There is an easier way of doing that as well, and that is done by just simply typing your number onto the spectator's phone. So if you are comfortable with borrowing the phone from the spectator and typing in google-stats.com/16, guess what's going to happen? When you go to the website, you don't have to do that scrolling of the number 16 to pair with their phone anymore. Just because you put that /16 at the end of the URL, now the website already knows it's your account. As a matter of fact, here in the lower right-hand corner, it's displaying the number 16. So that's feedback to you that the RealList website is now looking at your account. So now you can simply scroll down without having to do any work and just choose any category. So let's say we choose once again the actors category where we know it's going to be Tom Hanks. As always, we do the diagonal swipe. Okay, so it's ready for input. Let's say this time around the number is 22. So we're going to do here's a 2, here's another 2. So now I can see down at the bottom that the 22 is definitely over here. So that's feedback to me that I have correctly input it. And so now as the spectator scrolls down to item number 22, once again, sure enough, there's Tom Hanks. All right, so you notice that this is a method of pairing with your spectator's phone where you are actually borrowing the phone from them. The only thing that's negative about inputting your PIN at the end of it is that there's a part of it that, of course, your spectator can't really watch, because if they were watching it, they would wonder why you had to put a number at the end of it. So if you are in a situation where your spectator is comfortable with you, where you can just type in your number at the end of it, please go ahead and do so, because you are going to immediately be able to jump into your performance without having to worry about scrolling your PIN code in the beginning. And then last but not least, my favorite method of pairing is when you're going to be using your phone in your pocket and you're going to actually remotely pair your account with your spectator's phone. Now, this is a really amazing new method of pairing phones together that we designed about a year and a half ago that I want to share with you. And the way that it works is you must have RealList running on your phone in your pocket. Now, for those of you who are familiar with my Inject app, you are probably familiar with the swiping method, and RealList uses the same swipe method that our friend Paul Longhurst had invented, which is called a clock swipe method. Well, clock swiping is based on the idea of swiping from anywhere on your screen in one of 4 directions. Those directions are either swiping up, down, right, or left. And that's it. There are no other swipe directions. There are no diagonal swipes. There are no short swipes or long swipes. There's no double tapping or anything else like that. There are only 4 directions of swiping. So most people wonder, how can you communicate digits that are between 0 and 9 with only 4 directional swipes? So the method is very simple, and that's why this diagram in the middle of the RealList Thumper screen, or the transmission screen, is your guide. Notice how it starts off with the number 0. So it always takes 2 swipes to communicate a single digit. So if you can imagine a clock face in your imagination, you can very easily see that 12 o'clock would be at the top, 3 o'clock is to the right, 6 is below, and 9 would be to the left. So if you simply wanted to go to 3 o'clock from the center of a clock, all you would do is you would go once to the right. But since we need always 2 swipes to be able to go to, let's say, 3, you would have to do 2 swipes to get to it. Now let's form a 2-digit number using the clock swipe method for the numbers that are what we call just the classic numbers that fall within the boundaries of left, right, up, down. So let's say that number is going to be 36. So here's the way you would do it. It's 2 swipes to the right that are going to communicate the 3, 2 swipes down, which are going to communicate the 6. And now you'll notice over here that it says forced 36. So the number 36 now has been transmitted. Let's try that again. This time, we're going to pick a number which is not going to fall naturally at the 3, 6, 9, or the 0 markers. So let's say, for example, the number was going to be 45. So to get to a number 45, notice that the first thing that you would have to do on a clock is you would have to go to the right, get to the number 3, but then you would have to go down 1 to get to 4 o'clock. And that's why when we look at the little cheat sheet that's here, it shows that you have to go to the right and then down to get to the number 4. Now, the same ideology applies for any of the other intermediate values. So let's say you wanted to do the number 7. It makes sense that first you have to go down 1 to the number 6, to get to 6 o'clock, essentially. You have to go down 1. But then you got to go over to the left to get to 7 o'clock. So hence, to communicate the number 7, it's a down and a left. So as long as you can imagine a clock face in your mind's eye, you can swipe any number. And as long as you remember that it simply requires just 2 swipes to communicate a single-digit number, you're always ready to go. So make sure you just practice this, and we'll just do a couple of other quick swipes just to remind you of what things are. Now, let's say we want to do the number 27. Okay, so 27 is going to be 1 swipe to the right, 1 swipe up, 1 swipe down, 1 swipe to the left. Okay, so now you notice that that combination is going to produce the number 27, and that's exactly right. So just make sure you practice a little bit of these swiping gestures before you start actually swiping from inside of your pocket so you're comfortable with this procedure. And you can do these swipes either by just simply reaching your hand into your pocket and swiping across the screen, which you'll see me do here in just a moment, or you are welcome to swipe actually across your pants, or I should say above the cloth of your pants, like let's say just right through the fabric or the denim of your pants. And again, for the people that had seen Inject are familiar with how to do that. Yeah, later on, we'll talk a little bit about how you can do that as well. It's really straightforward. But first, we're just going to talk about how you would swipe if your just hand was in your pocket. All right, so we'll start from the beginning. So the phone that's on the left is going to represent the Magician's phone, which has the RealList app running. The phone on the right is going to represent the Spectator's phone, and we're going to get rid of everything and assume that everybody's just starting from scratch, where there's nothing on the screen. So before I start, on the Magician's phone, I obviously launch RealList. The only thing that I have to do as the Magician is just touch or click on the Thumper button. All right, so now this is the Thumper screen of RealList. Up on the top, you'll notice that the first thing that it tells you is that the keyword is video games. In a moment, you're going to see why that's important. The app even reminds you what the default force item is for that category. In this case, it's Tetris. The app is reminding you that our pin for the next 24 hours is the number 16. And it even tells us that it's currently unpaired, meaning that there are no other phones in the world that are currently paired with our Thumper or our transmission screen. So now you put the phone in your pocket and it's ready to go, and the screen is facing away from your body. You ask your spectator to just bring out any phone to launch any browser. So again, this is an iPhone. Remember, the phone on the right is a spectator's phone, and for them to go to googlestats.com. So the spectator is going to type in google-stats.com. There it is, and they go into the page. Now at this point, here's where things get really interesting. You notice that over here it says that the keyword currently is video games, right? Now watch what happens if I was to do a swipe up and down on the screen. Okay? A swipe up and down gesture essentially tells RealList to check the number of devices that are in the world right now that are actively using googlestats.com. And in this case, RealList came back and it said checked, and there are 2 active users, as you can see right here from the bottom. Now, at this point, it means that if I wanted to attempt like a clean pair, meaning that if there was only one person in the world that was on googlestats.com, then at this point, the app would automatically be paired with their phone. But in this case, I'm happy that it's not, so we can actually proceed with the new pairing method. The new pairing method is this. Here's a spectator's phone. You say, yeah, Stats is this website where they show you all of the recently trending searches that people are doing all over the world. It's updated every minute, so it's a great way for you to see what the world is basically thinking about every time you visit the page. But if you were to scroll all the way to the bottom of the page, let's say, for example, we look at video games. Okay, now watch this. The moment that either a single spectator or even thousands of spectators clicks on the video games category, watch what happens. Let's take your attention back here into the RealList app. And you notice that over here, now it says it's paired with one session. If there were multiple spectators that at this time clicked on the video games category, then it would mean that now you're going to be secretly and wirelessly transmitting to as many spectators as you want at the same time, even though you have never touched their phone. All right. So here's what happens next. Exactly like the previous performance, you can write down a prediction. Now, if you wanted to actually go into the performance of predicting the video game that it's going to be in the future, you could write down the word Tetris, but you don't have to. Because right now, the video games was just kind of like, let's say, a segue into the next part of your performance. Now, I'm going to go ahead and perform it for you as if I wanted to do a prediction for Tetris. So you would write down the word Tetris on a piece of paper, you would give it to the spectator, and you would ask them to name any number between 1 and 100. Now, remember, the spectator's phone is something you cannot touch right now. Okay, you're going to be completely staying away from the spectator's phone. And now the spectator simply says their number is, let's say, 36. Now watch this. This is the clock swipe method. The clock swipe method is reminding us over here to be able to swipe the number 3. We are going to have to do 2 swipes to the right. And to swipe the number 6, we're going to have to do 2 swipes down. So let's quickly do those swipes. 1, 2. Here's the 2 quick swipes that are going to be to the right. Here's the 2 quick swipes that are down. And sure enough, it says here, forced 36. All right. So not only do I have feedback here at the bottom of my screen, the phone actually vibrates once in my pocket as well. So now that tells me that a successful thump or a successful transmission has taken place. In fact, here on the spectator's phone, I want you to notice that next to the words result updated every minute, now there is a colon instead of a period. That colon now is feedback to you that a wireless transmission of a forced number has taken place. And as we check the number, sure enough, the number on the feedback now says 36. In fact, if we look at the number that's right before it, which is in the millions place, we see the number 16, and that 16 is feedback to us that yes, that phone is truly synced with our account, and our account at this time, our current PIN is the number 16. So guess what happens as we go down to item number 36? Remember, the first item is Tetris. And so now as we get down to 36, oh yeah, you guessed it. There's 36, there's Tetris, and of course the force number is here as well. All right, now remember how we said that this is persistent, which means that now as the spectator scrolls down the page, if they were to choose a different category, so let's say they went to go to the actors category, of course, if they were to scroll down to item number 36, they would see that Tom Hanks is going to be in item number 36. But you're not limited by this anymore because you are going to be doing wireless transmission of a number. You can now ask your spectator to name a different number. So let's say the spectator this time says, so here it is on the magician's phone. Here's our swipes. Here's 2 swipes up, 2 swipes down. There is the number, in this case it's 6, pardon me, I did the number 6. Here's the number 6, which is a 06. It tells us here that it forced the number 6. I can see that feedback here in the lower right-hand corner of the spectator's phone that this happens instantaneously because now as we scroll down to item number 6, there it is. 6 is now currently Tom Hanks. Now, I have so much fun doing this. I want to do it like live right in front of you, just so you can see how quickly these things update on the screen. So let's say you wanted to now transmit to the number 9. Now, currently, number 9 is Paul Newman, right? But watch what's going to happen over here. Here's the 0, 0, and here is the 9. Now, you said the moment that it says forced 9, as we come back over here to the spectator's phone, you'll see that Tom Hanks is going to jump from position number 6 to position number 9. Perfect. All right. So keep in mind that this is persistent, which means that if you wanted to stop at this point, of course, you can ask your spectator to go to different categories, which is always fun because if you memorize what the force items are for all the different categories that are on the lists, then you could perform like somewhat of a memory stunt for your spectators. So let's say, for example, you remembered that for countries, the force item is going to be Mexico and 680,000. So you could say, hey, you know what? Since you chose the number 9, why don't you scroll all the way down to the bottom and choose the countries category, So they'll go ahead and they'll choose the countries category, which is right over here. And when they scroll down to item number 9, you say, you know what? If my memory serves me correctly, number 9 should be Mexico, and there should be 680,000 searches there. So as they check, as they come down to item number 9, oh yeah, you guessed it, there's Mexico, and there's the 680,000 searches. So it's really nice to be able to present RealList either as a prediction mechanism, which is obviously the magical part of RealList, or you can even present it like you have superhuman memory. And you can know where every item is on a list for the different numbers that any spectator can mention. So that is how you can use the wireless method of transmitting using RealList. So since now we've seen how this works between the magician's phone and the spectator's phone, let's now examine some of the settings that are in RealList, starting from the upper left-hand corner. Starting from the top. Home, of course, is the main home screen of RealList, and we did that by first just clicking on the hamburger bars, which is the 3 bars at the top. Instructions is what we clicked on to bring us to the instruction page where you have found this video. And then finally, settings. As we look at the settings page, you'll notice that there's just a couple of simple settings here in RealList. Thumper with a black screen. This is one of my favorite features in RealList, which means that if you wanted to wirelessly transmit to your spectator's phone, but you wanted your phone out and about in play, but you just simply wanted to make it look like your phone was off. All you would do is you would just turn on Thumper with a black screen, and now means that as we go back, in fact, I'll show that to you just so you can see exactly what it looks like. As you click on the Thumper button, the first thing that RealList will do is that it will display your keyword, which is video games. So it reminds you your current pen is 16, but watch what happens. Suddenly, the entire screen goes black. So it looks like your phone is now off, even though all the swipe gestures are still active and RealList is currently running. All right. So this is a great way for you to literally do the dirty work right in front of your spectators as you pantomime them kind of like scrolling down the page with your finger swiping on the screen of your phone. So this is wonderfully deceptive just because it doesn't really look like you're doing anything. It just looks like you're just kind of like pantomiming them going through the actions, even though what you're doing with that black screen is you're actually inputting the number. All right. So that is, and by the way, the way you get out of it is you click in the upper left-hand corner, which is normally where that exit button would be, and it just brings you back to the main RealList page. And that is the first setting in RealList, which is Thumper with a black screen. Then Vibrate Thumper. Now, I recommend that you leave that default setting on. And the reason why it should be on is so that when you are swiping either in your pocket or through your clothes, like your pants pocket, you will feel that single vibration that tells you that the thump or the transmission has been successful. If you were the only reason why you would ever want to turn off Vibrate Thumper is if you're performing in circumstances that are extremely quiet and you don't want any sound or any feedback to come back from your phone. Okay, now the reason why obviously we don't recommend that is because as you do your secret input method, you have absolutely no feedback. You don't know if your transmission has been successful or not. So essentially you are truly working in the dark when you turn off Vibrate Thumper, but it is an option for you. And then finally, Thumper Reset Time. Okay, this is another very important setting in RealList, and it dictates how long RealList is going to wait before it accepts your input. In fact, the setting says Thumper swipes will reset if no input is received within the given time in seconds. So this was made so that if you feel that you have made an error, so let's say I do 1 or 2 swipes and I realize that those were the wrong things to do. All I have to do is simply wait for 3 seconds, which is the setting that is currently by default there, and RealList simply resets. It means that, okay, he made a mistake, 3 seconds is gone, so now it's going to start from the beginning, allowing you to swipe again. Just to demonstrate that for you, let me hit the back button. Okay, let's go back to the Thumper screen. All right. So let's say I decide to do a couple of simple swipes. So I'm going to do, let's say, we'll bring back our spectator's phone just so that we can see thumbs actually going across from one device to the other. All right. So currently says that it's unpaired. We're going to do a quick little swipe pattern to see if things are actually going to be paired or not. So let's try, let's do like just the number 33 because that's an easy one to do. Thumping 33, it says forced 33. And I could see that, yes, sure enough, results updated every minute. It says 16, it says the number 33 over here, and it's paired with 1 session, which is great, which means that RealList had remembered that previously on this particular spectator's phone, okay, they are still in that account and everything is still working. So remember, we just swiped the number 33, but we knew that we wanted to do the 33. But I want to show you what happens if you make a mistake, right? So now let's say you do a couple of swipes. Like let's say I do a swipe to the top and to the right, and I'm like, oh, no, I made a mistake. Watch, 2, that's it, gone. The 3 seconds is gone. It now has reset, so it's now waiting once again for you to do those 4 swipes again. So this is a great way for you to always feel confident that if you've done maybe the wrong swipes, as long as you wait for a little more than 3 seconds, then you're just going to simply reset back to the beginning and you can just do it over again. Now, even if you realize that you have thumped or transmitted the wrong number to your spectator's phone, please don't worry about it. Just try to do the swipe screens again and everything will be fine. All right. So that takes us now through all of the settings that are in RealList. And the last thing that I want to share with you is how you customize RealList for your own unique style or for your own unique lists and your own force items and force numbers. Here's the way it works. Every time you click on any category in RealList, so currently I'm clicking on the actors category. Okay, you'll notice that not only is there a list name, where in this case it says actors, there's a list icon topic. So what we want to do is just start from the beginning and create, let's say, a new category. So instead of calling it actors, I'm going to call it, let's say, men. So we're going to backspace out of that, type in the word men. The list icon topic, the icons that appear next to each topic are actually fetched from Wikipedia. Okay, now watch what happens if I currently hit the back button. You notice how it says it's saving. And I also notice here down at the bottom, there is now what used to be the actors category has now been replaced with the word men. In fact, I can also see that if I was to click on that category again, as it goes into the category, there's a little icon that RealList has fetched from Wikipedia, which is what Wikipedia displays for the icon of men. If you don't like this particular icon, you can replace it with whatever you want. So let's say I feel that a better category that can represent a man would be, I don't know, let's say it's, say we do Brad Pitt. Okay, here's Brad Pitt. Okay, so the moment you type in Brad Pitt, as we come down, there it is. And there's the icon of Brad Pitt that just appeared. So that's really nice. It just allows you to customize that icon. So it doesn't necessarily have to be the icon that Wikipedia gives you by default when it comes to whatever you've typed in. As we continue to come down, the most important field here under editing any of your RealList's lists is the force items. So first, the actual force item itself. Here it says it's Tom Hanks. So if I wanted to change that so it says Tom Cruise, I can go back, change it to Tom Cruise. Immediately, the icon of Tom Cruise appears over here. So I now know what icon is also going to appear on the RealList website when the spectators go to it. And force count. So this is the number that you are going to force onto your spectators as well. Now, we have a really fun and easy to remember memory trick for you to remember what these numbers are. The word Tom, or whatever is the first word of your force, count the number of letters that are in that word. Now, in this case, Tom is a 3-letter word, and that's why the first digit is the number 3. And all you're going to do now is just skip 2, or in this case, it's going to be all odd numbers. So it's going to be 3 and a 5 and a 7. And that's the reason why, by default, Tom Hanks had a force count of 357. So if we were to, let's say, force an item like King Kong, which is, by the way, the movie's force item, King is a 4-letter word, and therefore the force number for King Kong is 468. So you notice how it just simply skips, a number. In this case, if it's even, it stays even. If it's odd, it stays odd. And it increments up by 2. So for King Kong, it'd be 468. Now, that's just a memory trick. Of course, you don't have to abide by this rule or this law. You can make these numbers be whatever you want, but we're going to stick with it with that. Preamble. So preamble is, of course, the area which is right before your article that dictates just the text that's there. Feel free to change this text to be in any language you want. So if you are not in an English-speaking country, you're welcome to change that to be whatever. As a matter of fact, everything that's here on this list can be in any language you want. So if it's going to be obviously a list of men that are in your country, sure, go for it, put that in, that will be there. And then last but not least, under preamble is the actual list items. And they go from 1 to 100. And by default, we've already populated all those items for you. But feel free to go in and change these to be whatever you like. So if for item number 1, I wanted to, let's say, have that first item be Matt Damon, I can erase that and type in the word Matt Damon. And so now you'll notice that immediately the word Matt Damon not only is typed, but even the icon for Matt Damon gets updated on screen, and we're all set. So what we just did right now is we customized this particular list. Let's say you spend a lot of time customizing it here on a phone, which, by the way, I really don't recommend that much because typing on a phone is always difficult. We came up with a really clever way for you to be able to copy and paste presets in and out of RealList. And here's the way it works. At the lower right-hand corner of the screen, you'll notice that there's a copy and paste button. Watch what happens when I click on the copy button. Okay, notice it says the details have been successfully copied from this list. That means that now RealList has created a text that's been copied into the copy buffer of your phone that is every aspect of this particular list or this preset. Okay, watch now how we can use this. So let's say I hit the back button. Okay, it's going to now save this particular category. In fact, you can notice here that it says men. The icon here is going to change shortly to Brad Pitt. In fact, that's exactly right. That's what it changed to. But watch what happens now as I take this text and I try to paste it into someplace else. So let me just try pasting it into like a text message. That should be pretty cool. That will give you an idea of what's going on. So here it is. We're going to, let's say, do a text message for Kate. And under the message, as I hold down my mouse button, I choose paste. And now look what just happened there. Here is the entire contents of that particular preset as it has been created in RealList. And in fact, you'll notice that as we looked all the way at the top of this text, okay, it starts off with RealList version 1. The category is men. It has the preamble, and as you come down the page, you'll notice all the things that we had designed is in this text that was just copied. So feel free to either email this list to yourself. You can copy it and paste it into the Notes app. So then later on, if you wanted to edit that list on your computer, you would just simply open up that email or that note. You can edit it any way you like. And on your phone, when you open it again, it's just a matter of now pasting that, or I should say, copying that new list and pasting it back into RealList. So let's go back to RealList. Here we are. All right. And let's also check that new preset that we just created. So we're going to do everything the same way that we've done before. Here is the spectator's phone. Now you can actually check all of this either on the magician's phone or the spectator's phone. It doesn't matter, which is one of the other great things about performing RealList is if you felt uncomfortable about actually borrowing anyone's phone, please feel free to just, use your own phone actually for the performance. It doesn't matter what the phone is, it's always going to work. All right, so I'm going to get rid of the page that we had before. Up on the top over here, we'll just jump right into googlestats.com. And as before, we're going to secretly input our number, which means we're going to do that diagonal swipe. So here's the 0, here's the 1, here is the 6, which means that now we are under our category. And notice what just happened right now. Notice that the first item that came up is the category that we had just created or just edited, which is the category men. And that's why it's got the icon for Brad Pitt. And so when we do go down to men, all right, as we look over here on the left-hand side, we can see that now for men, the new force item is Tom Cruise, and it's 357. So you ask the spectator again to name a number. Now remember, this time you're going to be predicting Tom Cruise because we just changed it from Tom Hanks. So we're going to do that diagonal swipe that unlocks our input method. The spectator says, let's say 25. So here's the number 2. Here's the number 5. Okay, I can see the feedback over here is 25, which is perfect. But first of all, I want to show you what the first item is here on the list. It's actually Matt Damon, because obviously we changed it, in our RealList app. So just to show you that everything's customizable. But as we continue to go down to item number 25, you guessed it, there is Tom Cruise at item number 25. And that is, of course, now our new force item and our force number. So that shows you how you can take existing lists that are in RealList and edit them to your liking. And last but not least, the last feature in RealList is not only the ability of actually clicking on any one of these categories and editing them, but even the ability of creating lists from scratch. And here's the way you do that. When we go back, you'll notice that in the upper right-hand corner, there's an Add button. So I'm going to click on Add. Okay. And you can see that over here, we have a couple different ways of adding presets. We can either add a new custom list, which, by the way, takes a long time to do. Feel free to create lists that have as many items in it as you want. A list doesn't necessarily have to have 100 items. It can have as few as 1 or 2 items and as much as 100. And probably in the future will allow you to do lists that are even greater than 100 items, but currently the limit is 100 items. You have the option of paste list from clipboard, which is what we just discussed, meaning that if you had created a list on your computer from copying and pasting one of the default lists that are in RealList, you would simply load up that list in an email, let's say, to yourself. You would copy it on your phone. You would come into RealList and choose that paste list from clipboard option. And so now you have instantly shared, let's say, a preset from one magician to another. And then finally, you are also welcome to use a template. The templates are the default lists that RealList gives you. So if by accident, let's say you went in and you deleted, let's say, the cities preset. So I'm going to go ahead and do that here for you, just so you can see how it works. As I scroll down, here are cities. I'm going to click on cities. All right. So now here, I'm like, okay, cities category, I don't want it anymore. I want to delete it. So I click delete list, really delete the list. Yeah, because at this point you can't undo it. You click OK, and you notice that it deletes it. And as it goes back to the main list, the cities category is now gone. There's only now 11 categories that are available. So now I realize, oops, maybe I should not have deleted cities. Well, easy enough. Just go click on Add. Here are all of the templates that are still available for you. You click on cities, and you're going to notice that it's going to load that up here for you. Here's the list in the city. The force item is Rome. The force count is 468. Did you notice how Rome is a 4-letter word, and that's why the force count is 468? So yes, you're going to notice that we abide by that rule with all of the different force items that are on the list. And I like it. I like the word cities. I like the icon. And I'm going to just simply click on Save. And so now, as we go back to our main page and our main screen, we notice that not only do we have men, which is the category that we just created, but cities now has been added as well. So that's how you would be adding new lists to your RealList list. Let's finish up this instructional video with some tips and pointers as you perform RealList. The first tip is, when you borrow your spectator's phone and you are swiping the number, please don't rush this gesture, especially when you're first starting, because there's really no need to rush. You're not being chased. There's no need for you to run. And so what that means is just take your time when you first start. And because to your spectators, it really just looks like all you're doing is scrolling down a page, even though you're doing the secret work. The next tip about performing RealList when your phone is not being used at all, which, by the way, is a very powerful feeling because you feel free of just being able to perform RealList at the drop of a hat. It's really the sense of, wow, I can do this anytime I want, is you always want to do that diagonal swipe right before your spectator names a number. Because remember, the diagonal swipe, in fact, I'm going to do that for you right now. Okay, so here we are. Starting from anywhere on the page, I do the diagonal swipe. I see my little period that's next to the word indexed is going to disappear, which means it's ready for input. So now this is the time when I'm actually going to ask my spectator for a number. As I'm moving the phone towards the spectator is when I do the secret input method. And what I'm saying as I move my phone towards him is, yeah, please scroll down. What was your number again? You said 35. Just scroll down to item number 35. Now watch this. So my body currently is doing this while I'm moving the phone towards the spectator. The spectator picks up the phone from me. So now the spectator is handling the phone. I can see that number 35 is here, which means I already know I'm going to be successful. And as a spectator scrolls down to item number 35, they're going to see their fourth item, which in this case is Tom Cruise. All right. So that's something else to always keep in mind is as long as your body gestures really don't feel like you're doing anything unusual, always remember that the action of scrolling down a page is motivated. Because obviously, how are you going to get to their item if you don't scroll down a page? And that's why it completely flies by everybody. There's been performances that I've done for people that have been 4 or 5 performances in a row, and no one has ever figured out that by me scrolling down a page is how I'm actually inputting their number. So that is the conclusion of the RealList tutorial. I hope you enjoy it. And as with all of the other Rostami Magic apps, we are going to have a Facebook page that you're welcome to join. And I'm sure that this is one of those utilities that is going to really perk your creativity, and you're going to come up with a lot of creative ways of using this force item. I also want to finish off this video by thanking everybody that has made RealList possible. The first person is the programmer of RealList, the brilliant mind of Matt Redelick. If it wasn't for Matt, RealList wouldn't exist. Matt has put in a tremendous amount of effort in bringing this product to fruition, and so he's my partner in crime in making this happen. Other people to thank along the way are Gordon Edmond, who was one of the main Inject moderators and administrators who was involved in beta testing RealList. Other beta testers that I would love to thank are Doug McKenzie, my buddy Ryan Edwards from Canada, Josh Janowski, and I'm sure there are many others that I can't remember right now, but really thanks to everyone that has made RealList possible. And for those of you who are familiar with Inject, you probably remember that Inject had a technology in it. Actually, there was a preset in Inject that was called the Stanford list. RealList is the evolution of the Stanford list. So when this idea started almost 3 years ago, it was something as simple as just one of the presets in Inject that now has really matured to this incredible tool. And last but not least, both Matt and I want to thank our families because the creation of any of these products is just a lot of time that's away from our families. So we really appreciate our families, our wives, our children, in understanding how much time that we have to put into this new child and this new creation and bringing these incredible products together. I hope you enjoy RealList, and I will see you on the next product. Thank you very much.